So how does a mortgage foreclosure work? This is Attorney Bob Diamond. I'm here to tell you how it works. And not only am I an attorney, but I also bought properties at mortgage foreclosure sales for many, many years. So I'm here to give you the insider scoop. So how does it work? Well, it works by public auction. And you'll hear two kinds of auctions, so I want to make sure you don't get thrown off. One is a judicial foreclosure auction, which is typically conducted by the county sheriff. And the second one is a trustee's sale. And a trustee's sale is the same thing. Just in some states, they use something called a deed of trust to secure a property against a mortgage. Some, they use mortgages. But either way, it's kind of the same thing to you as an investor. So here's the way it works. What you're going to do is you're going to get lists of properties that are scheduled to be sold. If you're in a judicial foreclosure state, that means foreclosures are done through the court system, then go to the sheriff's website, or better yet, just go to Google and type in mortgage foreclosure sale, Delaware County, Pennsylvania, for example, where I still live. Put in there the county and state and mortgage foreclosure sale. And what you're going to find is information about the sales. What you want to look for is the government site. There are lots of companies that sell lists of foreclosures. Ignore them. You don't need to pay them for data. Half their data is not even that good anyway. And half of them mix in data of properties that were already sold at the sale called REOs. That's not what you want. What you want is to contact the site where they're advertising the properties at the upcoming sale, and it's a government website. Typically, it's going to be with the sheriff's office. At that site, make sure that you look at the conditions of sale. Download it and print it out, because that's going to tell you how to register for the sale, how the sale works, how payment is made. You make sure that you do that. Usually you have to register for these things in advance. So I don't want you to miss out. The second thing they're going to have is lists of properties that are coming up for sale. Generally, those lists come out about 45 days before the sale actually happens. So it gives you time to do what's called due diligence. What's due diligence? Just a fancy word for checking things out before you put down your money. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to look to see, is it a first lien that's foreclosing? You want to make sure they're on other mortgages, because if you have a second mortgage, like say someone took out a home equity line of credit, if that home equity line of credit forecloses, but there was a mortgage used to purchase the property still on the property, when you buy it at the sale, that mortgage is going to come with the property. Anytime a second or third mortgage forecloses, any prior mortgage stays on the property. So you're stuck with that as a bidder. So you want to make sure that you don't inadvertently take on more debt than you thought you had. So make sure it's a first mortgage. The second thing you need to do is check out the property, because we don't know what this property is. You don't know if it's vacant land. You don't know if it's a house. You don't know if it's fire damaged or water damaged. You don't know the first thing about it. So anytime you're looking at properties, these foreclosure sales, you have to take a ride by them and check them out. You have to look and find out as much as you can. So when you pull up on the street, look really carefully at the property and say, do I see any signs of like a leaking roof? One time I drove up to a property and I'm looking, it looked like a really nice house, but I was like, something's off. And I couldn't place it. And I started looking really carefully. I thought, wait a minute, there's a hole in the roof. And it was like a round hole like this. I'm like, what is that? And I looked, and it was where there had been a fire at the property, and the fireman took a pickaxe and got through the roof and then put a hose in there and sprayed water. Water does so much damage, incredible. And then I looked, wait a minute, under the eaves, it's kind of blackened. And, oh my gosh, that's soot. This place had a major fire. And that was why it was going to foreclosure, because it was no longer habitable. It just needed to be torn down. So when you look at a property like that, I thought to myself, well, this is great, but I got to price this as raw land and decide if I want to take on that big of a project, and I've got to demolish the house, so I have that cost. So that's an example of you really need to look carefully. And also look at the property for any signs of foundation problems. One of the keys to that, take a look at the window and door openings. You want to make sure that they're square or rectangular, not twisted and racked. Because if they're racked, what it means is that the foundation has a problem. Because if like one side drops, it kind of twists the window a little bit. And obviously foundation problems are a big, big deal. You'll also see it in the roof line, because the roof line won't be even. Roof line might be tilted, might be bowed in the middle. Those are signs of serious problems. They just don't want to get involved with them. The other thing with foreclosures, don't buy any commercial properties. There's a guy that bought a property in Norristown, Pennsylvania. It was a Mirabile company, and they bought what was a paint factory at one time on a really valuable, great piece of land. They bought it at a foreclosure auction auction, and they didn't realize that there were opened barrels of chemicals inside the facility. And after they were the successful bidder, the EPA said, hey, you guys have to hire a licensed hauler to seal those things up and cart them away and dispose of them properly, which, if I remember correctly, was a $450,000 cost. And they said, oh, we don't want anything to do with this. And they backed out of their bid and didn't pay the balance and thought they were off the hook. Well, the EPA said, not so fast, mister. And they made them pay for the cleanup. So they had to pay for the cleanup and they didn't have the property, which is just complete craziness. That's because of a legal concept called equitable ownership, and you don't want to be anything to do with that. The lesson for you, don't buy commercial properties. No former gas stations or factories or anything like that. Just skip them. Because if they have any kind of environmental problem, you're stuck with that cost. So just skip it. Don't do those. But back to the more fun news. So when you go to these auctions, it's a public bidding process. It's very exciting. It's very fun. There's lots to learn about that, and I can't tell you everything in this one video, but what I would say is just set your bid amount and stick to it. It's easy to get overly excited. It's easy to bid too much money, and you really don't want to do that, because your idea of going to get a property at a foreclosure auction is to get a deal. If you don't want a deal, just go with a realtor and they'll show you every house available and you get exactly what you want. But if you're dealing with foreclosures, just be careful and make sure that your focus is getting a deal. So when I go to an auction to bid, I know what my top bid is before I go in that room. I'm not gauging it on what someone else is willing to pay, not gauging it on my feelings at the moment. Instead, I know my exact number, and it goes above that, I literally just sit down. And you're gonna find if you go to these auctions that often they do go for more than you wanna pay, but that's not necessarily bad news, because I'm gonna tell you about a business called Overages, which takes advantage of that, which can actually let you make money from properties that you don't even buy. You make money from properties someone else buys. But before we get to that, let me just give you real quick on Trustee sales. Trustee sale is just another kind of foreclosure auction that goes in properties where they use the deed of trust as the security instrument, meaning that the way that the property is pledged to the mortgage lender is through something called a deed of trust. The big difference is that they don't have to go to court to foreclose on those properties. The trustee is authorized by contract to sell the property if payments aren't made. So those are a little simpler from the lender's perspective. From your perspective as an investor, it really doesn't make any difference, other than there are going to be lists put out by all the various trustees in an area of which properties they're going to be offering for sale, and the sales will happen at different times. Usually on the courthouse steps, maybe this guy's going at 11 in the morning, maybe that lady trustee is going at 2 in the afternoon. So these sales will happen at all different times. They're still all in one place, typically on the courthouse steps, occasionally in the trustee's office, but more commonly in the courthouse steps. And you just have to gather your list. Not a big deal, but just a little bit different. Same for you as a bidder. And just make sure that you're going in there fully informed. You've looked at the properties, you've checked out the title to make sure it's a first lien foreclosing, and that you're ready for whatever comes. Make sure you sit down with a local attorney who knows about foreclosures and get some advice from them, read books about it, and learn all about it. It can be a really good business. Let me tell you about this other special thing that I'm doing called overages. Overages are where the property sells for more than the amount that is owed, which happens all the time now. Prices have almost doubled on houses in the past 5 years, and that's created a big equity cushion. So when properties are sold at foreclosure auctions, it's very, very common for there to be large amounts of money left over. Tens of thousands, sometimes even hundreds of thousands. Occasionally now I'm even seeing over $1 million left over. And what the business is to get the list of those monies that are left over, to track down the former owner, let them know there's some money that they're eligible to claim, and see if they're interested in working with you for a percentage for you to go claim the money. Now, everybody won't work with you because some people are too skeptical, but some people will, and we make great money with that business. Typically, we're charging 30 to 40% of the amount that we're recovering. It's fairly simple and straightforward work, and we can make great money, and we're bringing a big windfall to people who had no idea there was anything they can get. What people think is that it's all over. They think, well, they sold my property, so that's it, I'm gone. They don't realize that at the end of that sentence, they sold my property, but it was my property and I get anything extra that's left over. They have no idea about that. So you're talking to people that just don't know. They have no idea how to approach this or even that there's anything to claim. So lots of people work with you. It's a great business because you help lots of people. So if you want to help people and make money, it's fantastic. And you don't need to come up with any money. You don't need to get the money together to buy the property at the auction and pay cash for it. You don't have to do any of that. If someone else bids on a property, say they outbid you, well, there's probably a big fat overages there, and you can go and talk to the former owner, see if they want to work with you, and then make money from a property that someone else overpaid for, which is pretty cool. I had this one guy named Newman that used to come to my auctions. Oh, he used to make me crazy. Newman would bid, honestly, just because I was bidding. And when I learned about overages, I was so happy. I was like, Newman, please bid on everything. I was like, can I get you an extra line of credit and set you up with the bank so you can buy everything? Because it's way easier to do the overages. I don't have to fix up properties. I don't have to evict people. I don't have to worry about was there a fire. I don't have to manage contractors. Instead, I just sign them up, apply for the money, get a check, give them the majority of it, 60 or 70%, keep a nice portion for myself, and wait for the next auction. It's really, really great. I never thought Newman would be my hero. I thought he was my lifelong enemy, and I didn't realize he was just putting big piles of money for me to get. So anyway, getting a little far aside, if you want to know more about overages, just check out my intro to the overages video. You can see a link down at the bottom, or you could see a link should be appearing up there. You can go check that out. Go check it out. Short video, 15 or 20 minutes. And there I give you all the details and help you choose if the overages business is right for you. I think it's really cool. I love buying properties at foreclosure auctions also, but I love just making lump sums of cash without having to manage contractors and come up with a bunch of cash up front, and I get the reward of helping people. So this is attorney and investor Bob Diamond. Hope this is useful. Go check out the Intro to Overages business video, and I will see you next time.